it's Naseem here. Now today I will be giving you guys the ultimate unboxing experience of the brand new iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now the differences between the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max are very slim, with the only main differences being the size, battery, and price. But besides that, deciding between the 13 Pro and Pro Max will come down to preference. Like for instance, if you like the 13 Pro but you want it to be bigger, get the Pro Max. But if you are completely fine with the size of the 13 Pro, then there should be no reason to spend the extra money to get the 13 Pro Max. So it just comes down to what you like. And before I touch more into this topic, the first thing you have to do is unbox this thing, right? So here it is, you guys, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now the first thing that I noticed when I was unboxing the iPhone 13 Pro Max was that the box was bigger than the regular 13 Pro as far as height, but was just as skinny because again, the 13 Pro Max will not come with a charging brick due to quote unquote environmental reasons. But besides that, the aesthetic was still amazing, and I like and think it's funny how Apple tries to make you feel a little bit more special for paying more with the black box, but it still looks amazing nonetheless and gives an emphasis on the Pro feeling. Now when we look at the front of the box, we can see the iPhone 13 Pro Max picture just like on the rest of the 13 series, and when we look at the top left, we can see the 3-camera system that is in fact bigger this year to fit in the extra hardware that goes into features like ProRes and the highly hyped cinematic mode. And looking at the rest of the front, we can see the half shade on the iPhone that highly emphasizes the Apple logo and gives it a much cooler look. Now looking at the sides, we can see the simple iPhone text that has much more color to match the aesthetic, and basically whatever colored iPhone you have is what the color of the text will be. Also on the top, we have the simple Apple logo that will also match the color of the text. And last but not least, looking at the back of the box, we have a lot of different information regarding the 13 Pro Max, like what's in the box, different specs, and extra info that is relative to your purchase of the phone. So when we open the box, just like on the 13 Pro, the first thing that we can see is the back of the 13 Pro Max, and here's the massive cameras that are indeed bigger than last year's. And again, I say it's bigger because of the larger sensors that support features like cinematic mode and ProRes. Also, the looks amazing with the matte material along with the faded out Apple logo, giving it a really cool effect. Next up on the sides, we have the beautiful reflective sides, which I must say looks really good as far as aesthetic, but practically the material on the sides aren't great because as you can see right here, it's a fingerprint magnet and arguably one of the worst materials that could be put in the part of your phone that you have to touch. But besides that, on the left of the phone, we have the mute switch along with the up and down volume rockers. On the right side, we have the power button, and on the bottom, we have the lightning port with speakers and mics. Now, last but not least, the final change that Apple made physically on the iPhone 13 series as a whole is the slightly skinnier notch that I must admit looks good when you first look at it, but I question whether or not Apple will use some of that extra space for extra notifications or anything minor. So now that we've seen every major physical change that has been made since the 12 Pro Max, let's look at what's in the rest of the box. And as you can see, we have our USB Type-C charging cable that does not come with the charging brick. So again, you will have to buy a USB Type-C charging brick if you don't already have one. And after that, the final thing that's in the box is the Designed by Apple Made in California booklet that contains different types of things like instruction manuals, a SIM ejection tool, and even the Apple logo stickers that come with every other device in the 13 lineup. Now, just like on the regular 13 Pro, the iPhone 13 Pro Max comes in 4 different colors, starting with graphite, gold, silver, and Sierra blue. Now this is a much lighter blue, especially when compared to last year's 12 Pro Max, but in my honest opinion, this year's is much more pleasing to the eye. It also looks very good no matter what time of day you're in, and complements the iPhone 13 very nicely. And again, I say my least favorite thing about the iPhone 12 and 13 Pro Max is that they have the fingerprint magnet sides that are so disruptive to the eye that the only way you can solve this problem is by getting a case or keeping a microfiber cloth on you. Like right here, you can see that I just wiped my phone with a microfiber cloth, but as soon as I touch it again, it has fingerprints all over the sides, which is really bad because in order for anyone to hold their phone, they have to touch the sides. Now moving on to the cameras of the 13 Pro Max, it has the same 12 megapixel wide, ultra wide, and telephoto cameras like on last year's 12 Pro Max, but this year one of the major updates that we have are the camera features, meaning that we will now be getting ProRes and all of the new cinematic modes that transitions focus from the primary to the secondary subject. And again, while I must say that this is very cool, I'll also say that there are times where it works and times where it also doesn't work, but I will give you guys more examples in my full review. But for now, I want to show you guys some sample photos that I took with the wide, ultra wide, and telephoto lens. And starting with the regular photos, I would say that these are the best that I have seen on any iPhone camera yet. Based on my first look, the pictures look as real as ever. They give off amazing lighting, even in environments where there wasn't that much lighting to work with, and was very true to real life when it came to colors without being too dull. Next up, when it came to the telephoto camera, I would say that it was slightly worse than the main camera, but not too far behind. There were times where the pictures felt a little too pixelated, but no smartphone has been able to completely get rid of the pixels, so my expectations weren't through the roof. And even though I'm kind of nitpicking, I will say that this is the best telephoto camera that I have seen on any phone. And finally, the ultra wide camera also has some pixelated photos at times, but still looked pretty amazing overall. And I found it to be a lot closer to the main camera in terms of quality rather than the telephoto was. The colors still look great, the ISO was amazing, and it was an overall great look for me. Next up, one of the most important factors that people often think about when it comes to buying the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR display that also supports ProMotion. And based on my first impressions, I will say that this indeed is one of the best displays that I have ever seen on any smartphone, but I will admit the Note 20 Ultra has the crown as number one. But I will say that the 13 Pro is definitely top 3, if not in front of the S21 Ultra. It was incredibly big, extremely vibrant, and met every need that comes with the expectations of an amazing screen. And instead of me telling you guys how great the screen is, I would much rather show you so that you get a good look at how good it is.
Actually, oh, here, there's a Game Pass card. So somebody watching this just got a free Game Pass. So the inside, this has some pockets up here. Okay, let's get the console out of here.
Now moving on to the size of the 13 Pro Max, it has the exact same size compared to last year's 12 Pro Max, with both phones having a height of 6.33 inches, a width of 6.33 inches, and a depth of 0.30 inches. And the only difference there is with the 13 Pro Max and the 12 Pro Max is the weight, with the 12 Pro Max weighing 228 grams and the 13 Pro Max weighing about 240 grams. And when I had the 13 Pro Max in my hands, I didn't really feel any difference in weight because the difference was so little, and the 12 Pro Max was already a heavy phone in itself. Now the iPhone 13 Pro Max has a lot of great things going for it, and one of the greatest is its storage, with its starter storage being 128 gigs, its second being 256 gigs, and its third being 512 gigs, and its biggest being 1 terabyte. And I must say that as far as storage goes, this is the greatest amount of options that I have seen on any iPhone, because the 128 is just enough for people who want to do a lot or take a ton of photos, and the 256 to 1 terabyte is for those who will be doing a great amount of things on their iPhone, like filming videos, playing tons of games, and even transferring big files to their iPhone. And last but not least, the final thing that I wanted to cover on the 13 Pro Max was the additional specs. Now the iPhone 13 Pro Max has an A15 Bionic chip that is on every other iPhone 13 series, so there isn't that much of a power difference. It also has dust and water resistance of 6 meters for 30 minutes. So this means that if you drop your 13 Pro Max in water by accident, it will be just fine depending on how long it's in there. And it also has up to 28 hours of video playback on the battery compared to the regular 13 Pro's 22 hours. But again, I will test this out in my full review. And there it is, you guys, my unboxing and mini review of the 13 Pro Max. Now, before you go, I have one question for you. Would you rather get the regular iPhone 13 Pro or the 13 Pro Max? Don't forget to comment. And if you guys made it to the end of this video, I would like to say thank you for sticking around. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It will be very appreciated. And as far as social media, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.